I am live. It is still the 8th of June. It's a very hot day. But I'm not looking forward to this particular chapter, I have to be honest with you, because I remember it. But there have been a few chapters which were harder to read than others, and I shall plough on. The Winged Pharaoh, written by Joan Grant. It is a memory of hers. It plays in the ancient Egypt before the flood, about 5,000 years after Atlantis. She was a seer. In fact, as a Sikita, who she is here, she was a trained seer, spent time in the tomb and had a proper training for it. I don't think people would even understand it nowadays, but some people will, and it will resonate, whoever wants to resonate with it. She is Sikita and rules the kingdom of Calm with her brother Nea. We're here in chapter 5 of the 6th part, and it is entitled The Court of the Sacred Bull. She's visiting another country. She is visiting Minoa, and they're showing her what they're doing in Minoa. We arrived at the Court of the Sacred Bulls 2 hours after noon, while the sun was still high and would throw no shadows to confuse the players. Nea and I sat on either side of Kiodas, on low-backed chairs painted in Minoan red and white. With us on the royal dais, which was opposite the gates through which the bulls were driven in, were members of our households. The court was oval in shape and surrounded by 10 tiers of wide stone steps, on which the rest of the spectators were assembled. Some sat on cushions and some on folded cloaks of brilliant colours. Sellers of wine and water carriers, and girls with flat baskets of sugared cakes and fruit and sweetmeats were among the people. As I looked at the crowd, who were gay as laughing children, I thought how different they were in the presence of their king from our people in the presence of Pharaoh. I saw a girl who held the stalk of a little bunch of grapes in her teeth as her lover tried to eat the fruit from her lips, and a man who was whispering to the girl beside him kissed her on the shoulder. In Calm, though we may wear transparent linen, our bodies are no more significant to us than our hands or feet. But here they think of their bodies not as a sword for their will, but as a vessel wherein pleasures for the senses are distilled. The girls' breasts are smooth as cups of alabaster, cups that hold enamoured wine to fire the blood. Their dresses cling like the arms of lover to their young thighs and rounded bellies, and their milk-white bodies, gentle as gazelles, hold leopard fierceness in their silken warmth. Their men are smoothly muscled as the men of Calm, yet it seems that they gained them, not in swinging mace, in driving chariots, or in throwing spears, but in the pursuit of their swift-footed loves, whose laughter led them through sun-dappled shade to eager conquest in murmurous grove. In Calm our bodies are but the clothes we wear on our long journey, but here their bodies are the habiliments of joy. They can hear melody in that sculptured curve from the breast to thigh, clear as the notes of the night-singing bird. They speak not wisdom, yet whisper a caress limpid as white flowers in the moon-scented dark. Their hair can throw a net above love's wings until they hold him captive in their arms. Their feet know not the measured step of thought, yet they can dance their waking ecstasy. They walk in shadows, yet they are rose-crowned, and sleeping birds unwing their drowsy heads to join with them in their glad orisons. Why should their hearts long for a temple's peace when they are crouched in honeysuckled bowers? Why should they dream of the celestial fields when golden jonquils spring about their feet and jasmine stars the night to make them wreaths? Sigh not for wisdom. You shall know its quiet when through your journey you are long in years. But while your earth can be spanned by your arms, store memory of this honeyed happiness. Gather it in the glory of your youth, so that its golden sweetness may refresh your hearts when you are weary on your pilgrimage. Kiodas broke in upon my thoughts and told me that today 5 girls and 7 men were taking part in the contest. As he was speaking, a man came into the arena and read out the names of those who were to test their skill against the bulls. Then the wooden gates were thrown open, and through them entered the procession of the players, who, standing on litters, which the bearers held shoulder high, were carried around the arena to the cheering of the spectators. Both men and girl were naked except for protective padding covered in gold. Between their loins and their bodies were oiled and shone like ivory. The girl's hair was cut short like the men's and covered their heads in tight curls. In front of them, royal days, the players sprang from their litters, and each threw a flower to Kyodas. The three who were to take part in the first contest, a man and two girls, walked forward and took up their positions in the center of the court. Then, to a blast of trumpets, the doors opened, and a magnificent black bull came charging in. His forward curving horns were gilded, and round his neck was a garland of crimson flowers. Suddenly he shot out his forefeet and checked himself, bellowing with anger. One of the girls walked towards him. The bull charged her. As he lowered his head to attack, she seized a horn in each hand and vaulted over his head and landed, running behind him. The bull was bewildered. Then he saw the man to the right of him and charged again. This time the man somersaulted and stood upright for a moment on the bull's back before jumping to safety. The crowd cheered and shouted with excitement. As the bull galloped across the arena, the other girls seized it by the tail, and as it turned on her, she vaulted across its back. This feat was loudly acclaimed, and Kyoda said to me, "None other in the land could have done that." While two cows were driven to lead the bull out of the arena, the three victors came forth before Kyodas, and he crowned them with crimson roses, for they had vanquished the bull of roses. Kyodas told me that this bull had been conquered by man. It was no longer worthy to be a sacred bull, and it would be taken to the pastures when the sacrificial animals were kept until such time as they were needed. The next bull was white, garlanded with violets. He charged more slowly than the first one, and the players, who were all girls, somersaulted between his horns. When the cows let him out, the girls came to the crown. Kyodas told one of them to stay with us. She was the daughter of one of his sailing masters. Her body was as subtly muscled as a young boy's, and she had a long scar across her thigh. When I told her of my admiration for her skill, she laughed and pointed at the scar and said, "I sometimes make mistakes. I was lucky to be able to make more than one." I wondered whether she was ever frightened, or whether her thought must be kept too tightly leashed in concentration on her perfect rhythm for her to have time for thoughts of fear. And as I talked to her, I was reminded of the raid of the red-brown people of the land of waterfalls. Here in the bull court of Minoas, courage is tempered to an even finer edge. In our land we are taught that when danger bars the path along which we should travel, it must be challenged and overthrown. But here they searched for danger like a hunter searching for his quarry through the tall reeds. This girl lives among a people who believe that their bodies are their true selves, and that their youth has but one flowering. Yet she is not afraid to dare her little span of youth against those sweeping horns that seek to end her strength, these pounding hooves in which she must hear the echo of death's voice. The next bull was black and garlanded with marigolds like the wreaths of its victors, and the one that followed it, which was the last, was red and white, and so belonged to Kyodas, as did every calf of this colour born in his kingdom. It was in a royal rage as it thundered across the arena, but two of the players vaulted safely between its horns. Before the last man challenged it, he called out something I could not understand. Kyodas told me she had declared that he would try the hardest feat of all, in which the players twist in the air as he somersaults between the horns and lands astride the bull, facing its head. As the bull charged, everyone was silent. The court might have been empty but for the pounding of its hooves. The player vaulted in a somersault higher than any of the others had done, and as his back twisted in the air, the bull checked, and he landed not on his back but on the point of its horn. Dagger sharp, it split open his belly like an overripe fig, and before anyone could run to his aid, the bull had gored and stamped him to a pulp. I found the moods of these people bewildering, for instead of the lamentations that I expected from the crowd, there was a wild outburst of acclamation for the bull. Flowers were rained down upon it, and as the cows enticed it out of the arena, the people shouted in an ecstasy of excitement. A cloak was thrown over the dead man, and I put my hand on the shoulder of the girl sitting at my feet. It must have been unnerving for her to see her companion killed, knowing that many times she would dare this death, but her face mirrored nothing of her heart. Helios was delighted. He said to me, "See, the gods have taken unto themselves my bull. We shall have a rich harvest. None other than Zeus could have vanquished the greatest athlete in the land." And when I asked him if he were not sorrowful that such a man should have been killed, he said, "He was magnificent. It must indeed have been Zeus himself who conquered him. The bull, which the god has honored by incarnating into it, even though for a moment, shall live in the precincts of the temple, and flowers. He shall have a pasture and as many cows as even he can serve. As he is a royal bull, the temple must give me half of all the tributes he receives. People who bring their cows to him must pay 5 jars of oil or 8 of wine, or the like value, for every cow he serves. And the droppings of such a bull are a strong magic against ills of the throat, and they are worth their weight in silver. In confidence, I think the priests increase their revenue by mingling the droppings of lesser beasts with what they barter, but the people do not suspect that, and some of them will even give a fine pearl for enough shit to plaster the chest of a sick child. As we left the court of the sacred bulls, I thought again of the man whose body lay under the cloak in the empty arena, and my heart echoed to a chord of memory, and I remembered that I had seen him in the Hall of Records while I was proving my wings. Then he had been told to seek for courage in the court of bulls, and now he had found her and become her son. Next one is Temple Ritual of Minoas. It can't get better, but there you go.